Thank you so much for joining us today for the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. Here on the Pastor's Potluck, it's similar to a normal potluck where you might get something that you want and there may be something that you just want to pass up altogether. And that's okay. There's something here for everybody. Our goal here is to encourage you and maybe in the process entertain you. If you're ready, let's dig in. Welcome to another episode of the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. Dude, it's right around the corner.
What?
NCAA college football.
Yeah.
PlayStation. I'm pumped.
I'm on the fence.
Why?
I haven't bought a game like that's for me in years now. Like Landon buys stuff and he doesn't have that history with it, so he doesn't he's not amped about it at all.
I'm amped.
He doesn't really watch college football anyways.
Yeah.
So he's an NFL person, so if he buys a game he's gonna want Madden whenever it comes out.
Yeah.
I'm probably break down and get it, but
You bought the Hogwarts game for you.
No, that was Landon's Christmas gift.
Oh, but you played it more than
him, probably 25 times. I never even got close to finishing it, and he went and traded it in to get MLB The Show. So,
oh, dude, I'd have given him the money that he probably got on the trade-in.
Nah, I don't. No, I just don't buy games. He has to trade his stuff in.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I probably will have to get this one though. I can't wait to see what they do.
For sure.
Plus, then to have all the NIL stuff now done and be able to see, faces and names and all that.
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty wild.
Well, that too, and it's just cool because, I don't have every opportunity to go and watch a game in College Station at Kyle Field and see the stadium and, see what they do with the crowds, because there's all kinds of different traditions everywhere you go. So for Texas A&M, between the third and fourth quarter, they play the fight song and then they do the saw 'em off where everybody locks arms and legs and they go back and forth. And it's supposed to look like the teeth on a saw, like you're cutting off the horns of the Longhorns. But, it's just like going up to Morgantown, okay, if you win a game, are they gonna play Almost Heaven, West Virginia?
Oh, for sure.
Blue Ridge Mountains,
Yeah. Go to Virginia Tech and see Enter Sandman. That's the one I want to see.
I know.
As much as I hate Virginia Tech as a West Virginia fan.
It's one of the best openers.
Thursday night down in Blacksburg, I want to see that thing just one time.
Yeah.
Just once.
Well, just even all the other traditions too, like what they do in Florida, where they're
the chomp.
Oh, the Gator Chomp or the Florida State Seminoles.
Yeah, when he comes out and plants the flaming whatever spear in the middle of the field. Yeah.
I mean that's just cool.
And again, as a Michigan fan, outside of West Virginia, I'm a Michigan fan. Even to see the dotting of the I of Ohio State's band, all that would just be really cool. That's what's different. That's what makes college football so much better than NFL's is just that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
The rivalries are legit rivalries. The pregame, ritual and all that. It's what makes college football so good.
I've actually always wanted to go see a game in Michigan because the Big House is so unique. Because if you go to any other stadium, it's all tiered.
Yeah.
They got levels on top of it. But Michigan, it's just you go from the floor and it's just this giant bowl. There is literally not a bad seat in the house.
Yeah.
You will never have somebody in front of you that's, or a piece of the stadium that's in front of you, because you've seen some of the new stuff and it puts you behind a pole or something.
This might be the year that I finally go. I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Because it's really not that far away of a drive. And I really want to go to a Michigan game. Yeah. Even, it'll have to be one of the crappy ones because
for sure
they're going to sell out after winning the national championship.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you can find a cheap, maybe not cheap, but relatively cheap game to
padding your schedule
Toledo
game.
Or Central Michigan or something like that.
Yeah, you're not going to get into Ohio State. You're not going to get to the Michigan State game.
I think, is that game back in Michigan this year? I can't remember where they were this past year. But
yeah,
we'll see what happens. It's going to be an interesting year for Michigan.
It'll be an interesting year for Texas A&M because we got a new coach.
Yeah.
Then you've got the addition of Texas and Oklahoma in the SEC.
Do they play each other, Texas and A&M this year?
Yeah, Texas A&M. They play on November.
Awesome.
In November, it's the last game of the regular season.
Awesome.
Just like it was, it's pretty much the I don't know if they're doing it on Thanksgiving. They used to, but then whenever they moved to the SEC, they swapped it out for LSU because Texas A&M and LSU used to play like all the time.
Yeah.
No, it's a Saturday game. So Saturday, November 30th, they play Texas.
Well, West Virginia is going to have a good team this year too. They're going to have the best quarterback in the Big 12.
Yeah.
So that's going to be it's a long time since we've been able to say that. So hopefully that defense can hold up, and that'll be a really good team this year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and all that.
College football.
I know it's only June, and we're already thinking about football. We've already gotten rid of all the summer.
Yeah, I know. It's like 90-something days until college football starts.
I can't. Yeah.
For me, it's the best time of year.
I used to be more of a college person. I am more of an NFL person now. I'm just obsessed with the Dolphins.
Yeah.
At a new level. Ever since they don't suck out loud now, they have my attention.
Yeah.
Mainly because WVU has been so bad during this time that Miami's been good, so they've had more of my attention.
For sure.
And it's easier to watch games on Sunday for me. My Saturdays normally don't line up, and I used to literally never miss a WVU game. I wouldn't miss it for nothing.
Yeah.
I almost skipped a family member's wedding for a WVU game.
Should have.
Maybe so. But
maybe at the end of the day they were both disappointing.
Yeah. Now I'm like, I just anything could get in the way of a WVU game now. I wouldn't even care.
Yeah.
Or I'd have to like tape it and like nobody could talk about it till I got home to watch. I just don't care like that anymore.
Yeah.
But like I will lose my mind trying to find out a way to watch the Dolphins every single Sunday because they're never on TV around here. So if you want to go to Buffalo Wild Wings, you got to spend like $80 to sit there for 4 hours.
I know, dude.
You don't want to take up someone's table and not be buying stuff.
I know.
So like you can't watch it, and they'll be on TV probably 3 times this whole year.
Yeah.
So it's like
And you don't have cable or anything like that, right?
No, I get the local channels, but they're never the local game because they're
for sure.
They're so far. We only get Pittsburgh and Cleveland and Washington. And all the people that nobody wants to watch, or maybe I don't want to watch. I'm sure there's tons of Pittsburgh and Cleveland fans and Cincinnati Bengals and all that, but not me. I would prefer to watch good football.
I wonder if they have it on the YouTube subscription, the YouTube TV.
They do. If you have to subscribe to YouTube TV, and then you have to buy the football package.
Oh,
so I mean, it's like you got to pay $100 a month for YouTube TV. Essentially, and then like another $500 for the NFL package.
There's no way it's $100 a month for YouTube TV.
I think that's what someone was telling me. Somewhere in that range, 60 to 100. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe it's been that long since I checked. I thought it was like $40. Yeah.
So yeah, you got to buy the subscription, and then you got to buy the package, the NFL, whatever that is.
It costs so much to be entertained nowadays.
To watch 17 games. And, 3 or 4 of those are going to be available for free. But my guess is after I go to Buffalo Wild Wings for 8 games, I probably could have just watched it at home and paid the $600 or whatever it is for the season.
For sure.
I don't know. I'm going to check into it this fall.
Yeah.
Because I only, you don't get to watch them very much. I think they're on Monday Night Football twice this year. They'll be on Thursday night at least once. And then if they have big games late in the year, they'll get put on TV. Yeah,
I have a buddy of mine who only subscribes to cable during football season. So like whenever, if the NFL or college, whatever one starts first, and then whatever the at the end of the Super Bowl, because Super Bowl is after the national championship, and then after that he cancels it, and the company knows it because he's been doing it for over a decade. He's just like, I just want television during this time.
Yep.
And so I don't know if he has to pay like a cancellation fee because most people want you to sign up for a year. Yeah. But he does it, and that's the only time he ever watches TV.
We used to actually do that up here. We used to just pay for cable for like 1 month a year when they used to have Super Bowl parties up here.
Yeah.
When I first started working here, we used to do a Super Bowl party every year, and we'd have to get DirecTV for like a month every year. I think maybe it was satellite. We had a satellite set up just for that one event.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, so crazy. Yeah, we used to watch the Super Bowl here. So
it's fun. I'm looking forward to it. It all starts off in July, college for me, college football, but it'll be video game style.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Anyways, we're getting into a new series here on the Potluck. Many people pronounce this dude's name a plethora of different ways.
Yeah. And we're going to say it the right way.
Habakkuk.
Yeah, Habakkuk.
Not Habakkuk.
Yeah, and I don't actually know if mine's the right way. I'm the one with the microphone, so.
I'm just going to say it the way that I've heard it growing
I grew up hearing it Habakkuk. My old pastor told me it was Habakkuk. I don't know what's right. I don't think it matters.
He's dead.
No. Yeah, Habakkuk or my old pastor's not dead.
No, I'm just saying, Habakkuk.
You can even see in my notes, I just eventually just started calling him Hab. It's like, what a ridiculous name.
Well, and there's nobody that's naming their kid this nowadays.
This isn't one of those guys you're like, you know what? That looks like a Habakkuk.
Yeah.
Or a Habakkuk. No, it doesn't. So, yeah, you could say this all kinds of ways. I preached this series 2017, 2018, somewhere around there. I haven't really looked at it since then, but I was reading it this morning, and I got really excited because I remember there's so much good stuff in a book that probably most people, if they read it, they don't get much out of it, or they just don't read it at all because it's in the minor prophet section of the Old Testament, like the really crispy pages of everyone's Bible because they haven't gone into them.
Yeah, you're getting really close to the New Testament, so it's like, I'm just,
it's like,
do I read this or do I just go to Jesus?
Yeah, so we already know Israel's a mess. Let's just go to Jesus and how he fixes it. There's so much good stuff in this series. That I'm really excited to kind of rehash out.
Well, set us up just for a little bit. Who is this Habakkuk guy? And tell us a little bit about what we know of him.
Yeah, Habakkuk was a prophet to the kingdom of Judah. So this is at a time period where Israel, at one point in their history, splits into a northern kingdom, a southern kingdom. The southern kingdom being Judah. And Habakkuk was a prophet to the nation of or the kingdom of Judah around 600 BC. And just to clarify, much like what we saw with Jonah, the role of the prophet has been really co-opted by like a bunch of weirdness. And when we're talking about prophets in the Old Testament, we are not talking about like fortune tellers, future tellers, things that we think about like a lot of times. That is a part of it. There are some of the prophecies of the Old Testament prophets that did point forward. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that's not part of it, but that was not their main role, was to tell the future.
Yeah,
and that's what most people that say that they have the gift of prophecy, the today's day and age, that's what they think, that God's giving me special insight into what's going to happen in your life in 5 years, and I'm going to prophesy this over you. That's not really the role of the Old Testament prophet whatsoever.
Yeah,
I don't actually think that's what's in mind in the New Testament gifting of prophecy either. Mm-hmm. I think that's part of it. I'm not saying that this is definitely a gift that God could endow anybody with. But the role of the prophet that you see all throughout the Old Testament is they always showed up and spoke truth to power. That's what they did. They called the nation to account. They weren't sitting here going, hey, this is going to happen to you in 10 years. They were going, look, Israel, you are out right now. Like, you are out of control right now. You have turned your back on God, and here's what's going to happen as the result of it.
Yeah.
They were calling kings to account. Listen, under your watch, this is what's happening. God is going to judge you for this. That was the role of the prophet. See, this is like people that have the gift of prophecy, I would say if you think that only means that you're telling people what's going to happen in their life, you don't understand the gift of prophecy.
Yeah.
Like I believe I have the gift of prophecy, not because I've ever told anyone what's going to happen to them in their life, but because of the strong messages I get from the Lord to call people to account for their life. To go, you're out of line and you need to repent. That was the role of the prophet. We just got done studying Jonah for all those weeks. What did Jonah do? As the prophet of God, he went to Nineveh. God's judgment is coming. Turn and repent. He was not just telling them crazy stuff was going to happen in the future. It was all about preaching repentance to sinful people. That was the role of the prophet. And so that is Habakkuk's role as prophet. So when you hear prophet, we're not sitting here talking about people that can fortune tellers or anything like that. That's not what they were doing. That is a small portion of it, but that's not the major deal with the prophets of the Bible. I think it got twisted and messed up because truthfully, to try to sit there and be like, oh, I got to get the prophecy, Jared, you're going to have this happen to you. And all. Well, that's a lot probably, more attractive of a gift.
Yeah.
And that's a more manipulated type of gift
100%.
That you can personally benefit from, more so than like the way that I see the gift of prophecy, which is speaking truth to people and power and calling people to repent. That's not... That's not a fun role of the prophet.
Yeah.
That's not the role of the prophet people want. We want the cool one where we're like, hey, in 3 years, you're going to have a child. And like,
it's so funny because I've come across those people and they speak in such like generalities. Yeah. Like, Scott, in 5 years, you know what? Lord's going to give you a really good message and you're going to like knock it out of the park. Yeah. You're like, bro, that happened like this past week.
Yeah. Yeah. You're going
to be in a house, Scott. You're like, I still hope so. Like, I'm working really hard to keep the one I got right now.
Yeah. And again, it can happen. I don't deny that whatsoever. Yeah. I just think that a lot of the charismatic movement has co-opted the role of the prophet and the gift of prophecy to make it mean what they want it to mean.
Yeah.
To operate in more of a supernatural gifting type deal rather than just the real plain meaning of what the prophets did.
Yeah.
Which was to stand up, speak truth, and call Israel to account.
Yeah.
We need a whole lot more of that sort of prophet in the world that we live in right now, and a whole lot less of the other type.
Yeah.
To be honest, we're far too future focused and not enough. Why don't you get your crap together right now? Type prophet focused. Yeah. That's really what we need.
Well, if you get news of something that's going to happen in 5 years, what are you going to do? You're going to wait until 4 years and 10 months to figure something out.
I remember I told you the story about the four-finger prophet here at Southridge.
Yeah.
I was in the cafe one morning. This guy comes up and puts his hand on my shoulder, and I notice he's like missing a finger. I was like, oh my gosh, that's odd. And he's sitting there, he's like holding on to me, and he's telling me he's a prophet and that he needs to speak to our church about a message that the Lord gave him about something that is impending, that's something that's going to happen. So, oh, wow, that's interesting. He goes, yeah, I knew 9/11 was coming before it ever happened. I saw a vision of it 2 years before that, and I was thinking, you're not a very good prophet, dude, because, like, you didn't see that, like, you didn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? Like, that you're not a good prophet if you saw that 2 years, if you saw that in 1999 and didn't say anything, you're a terrible prophet. No, you cannot speak to our church. You are a charlatan. That's what's going on here. And that's, honestly, that's...
Did you try to get him to tell you what it was?
No, not at all. I didn't want to talk to him at all. I have a hard enough time talking to strangers as it is, but if you want to be weird and if you want to put your hand on my shoulder and you're missing a finger, I'm not trying to like hate on nobody that's had an accident or nothing like that. I'm just saying if I don't know you like that, I don't want you to touch me, especially with that, because then I got all kinds of questions like, you're a prophet, you see stuff coming in the future, but you didn't see that coming. Like, I've got
you couldn't save your finger.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of an issue with that, man. Like, don't Don't try to sit. And for me, this is where like I can be as laid back as I come when it comes to being a pastor. But when it comes to protecting the people of Southwest Church, that's where I will tell someone like that, like, no, I'm sorry, I'm the shepherd of this flock that God put in charge. So if He has a message for this church, He'll give it to me. I actually don't need you to come in and say a word to this church, especially when clearly you are crazy. If you're telling me that you saw 9/11 and didn't do anything, like, then what? Again, a lot of times when we're trying to operate with that sort of gift of prophecy, I just want to ask those people, what's the point? What do you think? What purpose is that serving?
Yeah.
Hey, this is going to happen in your life. Great. What if it just happened? Like, and nobody told me it was coming, just like every other life that's ever been lived.
Yeah.
What purpose is that? Oh, but you could also just give me a message to encourage me and manipulate me. It just doesn't seem like a necessary thing to me at all. I think it's overly abused, even though I know people that operate in that sort of gift and do it well. It's just too easily that's probably my biggest issue with the more charismatic gifts of the Spirit. It's not that I don't believe that they exist. I just believe that there's more charlatans and fakes than there are the real things.
Well, and whenever it does happen, it typically causes like a lot of confusion. And God is not a God of confusion. He's not a God of anxiety and worry, and giving someone some kind of message like that is totally against the very nature of who God is.
Yeah.
He comes to give you life and give it to you abundantly and very fulfilling life. Yes. Are there going to be times in life that's difficult and you're going to struggle? Yes. Yeah. But He doesn't want us to. It goes totally against what you preached on this past Sunday. And I have it actually in here. And I'll talk about it a little bit more whenever we get to it, but it's just this whole fixed faith mentality.
Yeah.
Like, yes, we're going to go through some stuff, but I know that if my faith is fixed on Jesus, then I know that if I'm about to fall or if I'm about to stumble, I know that He's going to be there to catch me before I eat it.
Yeah. I'm tethered to the cross in that way.
Yeah.
And so for me, just those more charismatic type gifts, I fully believe in them. But I just am skeptical, I guess, and somebody that's more versed in, someone that's more versed in those gifts and has a stronger feeling towards them could probably correct me pretty easily, and I would receive that. I just don't see the purpose in them whatsoever. I don't see how telling someone that something is coming in their life benefits them in a way that's, because all the rest of us just have to deal with life one moment at a time. So it just, I don't know. I'm not against any of the gifts of the Spirit that the Scriptures speak about. I just think I'm naturally skeptical because of the
human side of things.
The human side of it, but just because even all the way back into the first century, you get someone like Simon the Sorcerer that is already trying to mimic the things that the apostles could do for his own personal gain. Like, this is not like a new thing that like Benny Hinn just popped up.
Yeah.
And like, oh, he's out there pulling the wool over people's, like, no, this has been around since the first century and even long before that. Like, somehow the magicians in Pharaoh's court were able to mimic the miracles that Moses and Aaron were able to do.
Yeah.
People have been able to mimic the type of stuff that God really does for literally thousands of years now, which is why we should be a lot more discerning with things like that.
Yeah.
So it's, you get those folks that video fake healings and stuff, and go ahead and send me $1,000 because I just healed all these people, and you want it to keep happening. You're like, holy cow! I'd like to see, heal me just one time, like do something cool like that, and then maybe I'll send you $1,000. And again, I fully believe that the Lord still works miracles and heals people.
Yes,
I will pray for your healing all day long. I just don't know that I trust anyone to pray for my healing with a camera on me. Is all.
Yeah, Oof, that's good.
It doesn't seem like, hey, you got a camera, you pray for me, and you fix something that's wrong with me. All right, I'll give you your due, but it's just too much of that going on. So that was a long rant, but so Habakkuk was a prophet.
Yeah. Well, and through this series, you have something that you wrote down here, and through our conversations and on this subject, and the people that are listening. The main goal of what we're going to learn and take away from this is we're going to learn how we can trust God when nothing makes sense.
Yep.
Which is super applicable in today's society and today's culture and the things that we're going through. Because all of us all have questions about every aspect of life, and I don't understand why it doesn't make sense, but
it's exactly where the series came from, was just like, this is the common human experience, that we're all going through this thing.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. Like, we've had stuff just happen in our lives and in our friends and in our families, and you just go, huh, how, like, what? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And rather than, like, trying to help people come to a place of certainty about those times, rather it's probably better to equip them to deal with those times, because it's a lot more likely that they're going to have times where things don't make sense, as opposed to, well, you just need to have more faith.
Yeah.
And then things will make sense. No, that's not really the answer. In fact, that sort of rhetoric has damaged a lot of people and then causes them to walk away from their faith, because they don't actually have the tools necessary to go through a difficult time, because they were always told, no, you just got to have more faith. If you have more faith, then you won't have to go through hard times. Hard times won't bother you if you have more faith. And it's like, that's just, I'm going to tell you right now, that's not true. I've been following the Lord now for 13 years, and that's not true at all. Like, I feel like most of my Christian journey has kind of been times that don't make sense.
Yeah.
And I would rather have the tools how to deal with it than have someone pull the wool over my eyes and tell me that if you just believed more, all of it would make sense. Oh, you just got to trust God more. You got to trust God more. It's like, that's probably true. I probably do need to trust God more. But can we also get equipped for how to handle it, since it's pretty obvious that we're going to have to go through it?
Practical next steps.
Yeah, that's really what I think we hit on a lot in this series.
Yeah. Well, setting it up, and we see that this whole book of the Bible is a conversation just between one person and God. It's a lot of back and forth between the two. And you deal with, just right off the bat, we get Habakkuk's almost kind of like complaint prayer. Yeah. I mean, he's complaining.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually read it. This is what he says in verse 2. He says, "How long, O Lord, must I call for help, but you do not listen? Violence is everywhere, I cry, but you do not come to save us." So Habakkuk is the only book in the whole Bible that is just a conversation between one person and God.
Yeah.
It's really just one big prayer and God answering back to Habakkuk's prayer. And the question that he asks is probably a pretty familiar question to all of us.
Yeah.
Okay, God, why in the world are you letting stuff like this happen?
Yeah.
Why are you letting this happen? That's what I was watching the Impulsive podcast yesterday with Logan Paul and that other guy. I don't normally watch that, but Stuart and Cliff Connectal were on there.
Okay.
They are just about as top of the line Bible theological apologists that you can get. They go around the country debating on college campises and trying to help.
Oh yeah, it's that real skinny guy.
Yeah, the big, and they're brilliant.
Oh yeah, he's great.
And so I think because George Janko, who used to be on with Logan Paul and all them, I think he got maybe led to Christ by Stuart and Cliff.
Yeah.
So they got introduced that way. So here we have on a very secular and skeptical podcast like Impulsive, like they're sharing the gospel and answering really tough questions from Logan and his co-host. And one of the things that came up was Sandy Hook, the shoot, because Cliff and them are from Connecticut, and Logan's co-host is from Connecticut. And they said, were you around Connecticut whenever that happened? And the whole question is like, I mean, how does something like that, how does God just stand by like and let stuff like this happen? And how is this possible? You want to keep telling me that there's a God in heaven that loves us and cares for us and is good and benevolent and all these things, and yet the world does not seem to reflect that in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. Like when you have someone go into a school and mow down elementary kids, mm-hmm. that question, you just go like, how is that possible? And that's what Habakkuk is doing here in that first. He says, how long, O Lord, must I call for help? As the prophet of Israel, Israel is wayward. They are getting more evil by the second. Yeah. They have fully turned their back on God. They are headed down a path of destruction. Habakkuk, as the prophet's going, how in the world am I supposed to get these people to, like, everything is so bad, God. I've been asking for your help. I've been asking for your help. I've been asking for you to show up in this situation, to step in, to do something. How long do I have to do it? And, like, you get the sense that when Habakkuk writes this stuff down, that there's been a lot more stuff that's been said that wasn't written down.
Yeah, and one of the things that was interesting whenever I was reading this prayer are the parallels of what was happening at that time to what we see like today. Yeah. And I wrote down the parallels that we see in the modern times. So violence everywhere. Yep, we see it. We see it with rioting and looting and fights and violence and shootings and everything. And they also list people who love to argue and fight. You see it all over the internet.
All over the place. I was reading, I've been reading a lot of comment sections. Oh, it's the best. Ever since Pride Month started. I've been reading a lot of comment sections. Yeah. Just because I'm interested in, like, how in the world do these people just argue with strangers? Yeah. Just, it's possible to have an opinion and realize that company that you just posted on their Facebook does not give two craps about what you think about their profile picture for this month. Yeah. And that's not going to, how in the world you think that comment, like, yeah, we love to argue and fight. Like, I'm telling you, I've been reading some comment sections and I've just been, like, blown away at the way that people with, like, will just say the worst stuff to other people. Yeah. Like stuff that if you said it to someone's face, you'd get punched right in the mouth.
Oh, I know.
But everyone is so tough on the internet. Yeah. And it's like, that's crazy to me. We do love to argue and fight.
Yeah. Another thing he lists off is no justice in the court system. We see a lot of social injustices. We see just different topics that are being passed as legislation that do not reflect the heart of God and Jesus and who they are. And another one is the wicked outnumber the righteous. How many times as a Christ follower do you feel like there's so many more, you feel like there's so many more wicked people, and it just you feel outnumbered. You're like, gosh, how am I supposed to stand up for you, Jesus, whenever I've got all these things and these people feels like they're trying to attack all, whatever, my way of life, what I believe, and they're taking away my religious liberty and this and that, and like we can't get enough people to go up and vote for these things and whatever, just whatever you are thinking and going through. It fits into one of these categories that we have seen, and it was you and I were talking about this earlier this week, and we talk about it actually often. We always think, oh man, I wish we could just go back into the day whenever things were better, back in the day. You wish you could go back to whenever you were a kid and you were naive to the fact that that these things weren't happening.
Yeah. It's very funny to me
in the 80s. Like,
it's very funny to me.
Of course, whenever you're your main hobbies are getting your bike, riding around the neighborhood, collecting baseball cards. You are so naive to the fact that all of this stuff is not happening.
It's very funny to me
But
that the modern mindset is that the world is worse off now than it's ever been. And it's like, I don't think that you've ever read a book or a history book or like what do you mean the world is worse off now than it's ever been? Like, do you know what they were doing to each other 4,000 years ago?
Yeah. Do you know that 50% of your kids that you have had a chance to die by the time they were 3?
Yeah, like if you look at all of the things that matter, you're like, what are you talking about? The world has gotten worse. This is the best it's ever been.
Yeah.
Like, since before the fall of humanity, it's never been better than it is now. And we get this, it's the generation, it's like 2 generations before us that, like, for them, the world that they grew up in seemed so just simple and safe that now that the world is the way that it is, they're like, oh man, it's gotten worse. And it's like, nah, not really. There's more people with access to healthcare and education now than at any point in human history. We literally have electric cars. You could hop on an airplane and go from one side of the country to the other in just a matter of a couple of hours.
Every building you go into has air conditioning.
Yeah, you have air conditioning. You have
proper plumbing.
Shoes that don't hurt your feet because people study that. Like, it's the best time there's ever been. And yet, and all that to say, there is still all of these problems, but the problem is they've always been there. Yeah. They've always been there. It might not have been like that in your circle. And again, we have this cultural bias, and we have this recency bias, and we have this like our own little bias based on, like, maybe you grew up in small town USA where you could just leave your doors unlocked and walk down the street that just had one stoplight and go to the soda shop and get you maybe that was how you grew up, but at the same time there was kids in Africa being abused and dying of starvation and water and having bad water. Yeah. Okay, so your whole idea that the world is worse now than it's ever been is nonsense, because it's only based on your little circle that you were raised in, and you're unaware of the fact of how people have been suffering horribly for all of these years. Yeah. And so what Habakkuk is doing in this prayer is he is making another plea to God and goes, okay, God, things are really bad. When are you going to do something? Yeah. Are you going to step in? Are you going to fix stuff? And because the way that it's written, I said, it does seem like this is not the first time that Habakkuk has talked to God about this. Yeah. Whatsoever. This has probably been a topic of conversation, and that's when he says, how long, God, do I have to keep asking? And the question then becomes, like, how often in your life does it feel like God's not listening? Yeah. Right? Like you just are going through it, you're going through it, and it just feels like he's not listening, he's not stepping in. It's just one thing after another. And I find comfort in the fact that Habakkuk, a prophet of God, sort of had the same question and problems that I do. To go, okay, God, I've been going through a really tough season, and I keep praying and asking for you to show up and intervene and make things better, and it doesn't seem like that's your plan. It doesn't seem like that's what you're going to do. However, the nice thing is I also realize that I lean on God a lot more in that season as well. And so, like, maybe you find yourself in that situation asking God, why is my marriage not getting better? Why does everything keep falling down around me? Why does this keep happening? Why does this? Why do I keep struggling with this problem or this health issue or this sin or whatever it is? And you keep asking and asking and asking, and it sounds like God's not there. And here's the thing that I'll say about this initial complaint from Habakkuk was, we cannot make the mistake of thinking that the silence of God, like God not immediately answering us when we call, as if he's like our butler, we can't mistake that for the absence or the apathy of God. because the rest of the scriptures won't allow for that.
Yeah.
You might be in a moment where God is being silent, or at least you presume God to be silent, or you can't hear him, or whatever the situation may be. Or maybe he's answering your prayer in a counterintuitive way to how you would have had it done. However, the truth of the scriptures is, and this is why we have to lean on the whole counsel of the scriptures of what we know to be true, is that even in those moments where it does feel like God is silent, he is absolutely not absent. So you are not walking through that situation by yourself whatsoever. You also cannot mistake the silence of God or your perceived silence of God for the apathy of God, meaning that maybe God just doesn't care. Maybe God doesn't care that there's kids starving in Africa. Maybe God doesn't care that there's kids in foster care right now that don't have a place to live. Maybe God doesn't care. It's like, no, you cannot draw that conclusion based on what we know about God.
Yeah.
Whatsoever. You just cannot come to that. So it will be very difficult when things do not make sense for you to think that God is absent or that he's apathetic about what's going on. And it'll be easy to ask questions like, oh my goodness, why does stuff like Sandy Hook happen?
Yeah.
Why does stuff like financial crisis? Why does a 40-year-old guy get cancer? Why does a baby not make it to full term? Like whatever it might be, and you're going, I don't know, but here is what I do know based on the whole counsel of Scripture, is that whatever that thing is that you're asking God about, you are not facing it by yourself. He has promised to never leave you, never forsake you. Not for a moment will you ever have to go through it by yourself. And I do not say this from a theoretical position. I share my life pretty openly whenever I preach and teach. I'm not joking when I say that the last decade of my life, it feels like there's been a lot more valleys than there has been mountaintops. And not for 1 second, no matter how badly I have failed God, no matter how close I've come to wanting to throw in the towel, not for 1 second have I ever been on my own.
Yeah.
Not for 1 second could I accuse God of not caring. And that's what someone needs to know right now as you listen to this, whatever it is that you've been walking through, you are not alone, even if you feel like you are, right? Sometimes we feel that, and that the reason might be, and I've used this a lot, the most consistent things in life are the things that we notice the least. Mm-hmm. And so because the presence of God has been so consistent with you, you may not even notice it any longer. It's like we want to think on Sunday morning when the music's really good, we raise our hand, we got a little tear coming down our cheek, and we get the cold chills. We're like, oh, I feel the presence of God. You might just be feeling that song, to be honest. You know what I'm saying? Because the presence of God is so constant that you may not feel it like that.
Yeah.
But you can trust in the promise a lot more than you can trust in anything else that he said. I'll never leave you. I'll never forsake you. So in that moment, he's there, no matter what. And so that's just something you have to lean on in this season. Whenever you're going through, things don't make sense. You're going, I don't know. We got a bad diagnosis. I'm not old enough for this. I don't know how I ended up with this. My marriage is crumbling. I don't know how we got there. My kids are struggling in school. I don't know what to do, or whatever it is. Like, just don't make the mistake that so many people have made of going, well, God doesn't care, so or God's not there. Because the problem of evil, pain, and suffering in the world has created more atheists or just apathetic deists than any other issue. Most people that have trouble having faith in God don't have trouble with believing that there's a God or anything like that. They normally have trouble with being able to square what's happening in the world with the idea of God.
Yeah. Oh, man. I think that's a good point to stop.
It is.
And next week we'll get into God's response to Habakkuk and kind of break that down and take it away. I think that that's just a great spot just to kind of like stew on maybe if you're going through something, that God hasn't left you. God, he's still there with you, and he's right by your side.
Yeah.
And I just pray that that you can feel him there close to you. Sometimes it's just sometimes whenever you don't feel him, it's good to have that reminder. And I hope that this conversation today is just a reminder to everybody that he is there for you. He's there. All righty, man. Mystery meat time.
Let's lighten this thing up.
I don't know if the last
another serious one.
Well, the last 4 weeks have been serious ones. All right, this is good. What's the silliest joke you've ever heard that never fails to make you laugh?
Silliest joke.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so many. Gosh, because I love dad jokes.
Oh yeah.
Like any dad joke, just fill in the blank. Any dad joke.
Yeah.
I love them. Like my probably one of my all time favorites is, how's it go? It's something about I've been on a mission to. Hold on.
You think about it.
I'm going to. Go ahead. I've got to.
I shared it with the staff the other day. I said, I feel like I'm the only one that truly believes that dry erase boards are like really remarkable.
Yeah, that is a good one.
Yeah.
That is a good one. It said, I'm on a mission to tell people about the benefits of dried grapes, just raising awareness.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I love that
one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stuff like that.
One of them from my childhood that I'll never forget. And I didn't understand it at first because I didn't know what corduroy was. But it was, did you hear about the new corduroy pillow? It's making headlines. See, that's such a good one.
It is.
And then anytime I'm ever on stage and people are like, fill time or like, check your mic, I do like to pull out these two jokes. These are also from whenever I was a kid. And it'd be like, all right, so there's 2 muffins in an oven. One muffin looks at the other, goes, it's hot in here. The other one goes, talking muffin. And this last one, this guy's walking down the street with a corn dog stuck in his ear, and a guy sees him and goes, hey, buddy, you got a corn dog stuck in your ear. He says, I can't hear you. I got a corn dog stuck in my ear.
That one's not as good.
That one still makes me laugh. I don't care. The question was which one, without doubt, makes me laugh. That one. I don't understand that one at all, why it's funny to me. But, yeah, I love stupid dad jokes. They always hit.
There was this one comedian who was talking, and he said, the other day I bought some of those foot pads from Dr. Scholl's. He's like, I think that guy wasted too much of his life because, I mean, those things are really comfortable. I would have probably bought them just from a Mr. Scholl's. Like, he didn't have to go to school and be a doctor. Like, even a Senor Scholl's, I would have bought them from him, too.
Yeah. Senor Scholl's, yeah, I do. The comedian, like anything Nate Bargatze does,
oh, it's great.
Is great. I do. There's a Mitch Hedberg joke about buying a donut, and he gets asked for a receipt.
Yeah,
I love his response. He said, "What scenario would I need to prove that I bought this donut?" Like
it's the way he pronounces donut.
It's so funny to me. I love that one. Or he's got that one, just real dry one about. When you're at a restaurant and they call someone's name and they don't ever show up. Yeah. And he said they just go on to the next person. And they're like, no, we want to know what happened to that family. That family is currently in the back of somebody's trunk tied up right now.
Yeah.
It's like Bush. Search party of 2. That one always cracks me up.
Yeah, you need to go find the Smith party of 3 before we can seat you. We need to figure out what happened to them. Yeah,
that's so good.
I know, dude. I was so bummed whenever that dude passed away. I was like, like all of his stuff. I go if I get on like the rabbit hole on YouTube or something like that. It always ends up on watching some of his stand up just because it's so dry. It's so
the one-liners, man.
Yeah.
He just nails the one-liners. So
yeah,
he that does make me laugh.
Yeah,
too.
I wish that somebody needs to take that style and run with it again. Like we need just good, clean.
I think he's not appropriate whatsoever. But Anthony Jeselnik, he pops up on because I would watch a lot of comedy stuff on Instagram or whatever, and his clips will pop in there, and he's not appropriate whatsoever. But that is a little bit of his style, but it's way darker.
Yeah,
way darker and inappropriate.
Yeah,
like,
Norm
Hedberg
Macdonald
had plenty of stuff that was inappropriate, but like he also had stuff that was just like clean. Anybody could enjoy it. Yeah. Jesselnick does not.
Yeah, Norm Macdonald was like kind of like that. He would just make up like funny jokes.
Yeah,
and then it was just like people either loved him or they hated him, and I enjoyed it because most of the time it was just like dad jokes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, cracks me up. Yeah. All right. Well, I didn't mind that mystery meat all that much.
Yeah. Somebody was talking with Norm Macdonald, and they were like, yeah, I can't take this medicine because it gives me the shakes. And then they kept on trying to tell him about like the side effects of the medicine. He goes, well, did you get the fries too? All righty, enough of that. All right, y'all have a good day. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you next Friday for another episode. And don't forget to share this message. Yes. Good God Almighty. Like, it's just, sometimes we just goof off and we like to have fun. But, I mean, whenever we hit the ground running and slinging truth, God Almighty, we just want you to share this with people, and just so they can understand that Jesus hasn't left them. But, share it with somebody. Copy and paste the links, whatever you got to do just to kind of help get this message out, because, I mean, it's God's given pastor a good way of bringing the word and the truth to people. So, you should change your business card to Prophet Beha.
Yeah, give me a more official title.
You should have to wear a funny hat, though.
I don't want to do that.
All right, y'all have a good week. Bye. Thank you so much for listening in with us today. We really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can also follow us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram. And you can also watch the video version of this on YouTube as well. All you have to do is search up the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. From all of us here, we want to say thank you, and we'll see you next week.